The crown didn't explode in anger when Prince Harry crossed the line, it went ice cold instead. And according to whispers spreading through palace corridors, that silence was far more brutal than any public punishment ever could have been. Because while Harry and Meghan were fighting headlines, chasing Hollywood relevance, and trying to control the narrative one Instagram clip at a time, King Charles was quietly making the most devastating decision of his reign. He stopped waiting for Harry to come back. He replaced him. Washington, D.C. became the moment everything finally snapped into focus. Early 2026, King Charles arrived in America surrounded by diplomats, security convoys, state officials, cameras, and political power. But one person was missing from every single frame: Harry. Not because he was overseas, not because he was unavailable. Harry was reportedly less than 40 minutes away from his father. 40 minutes. And still Charles refused to see him. Palace aides allegedly structured the king's entire itinerary around avoiding even the possibility of a meeting. Think about how calculated that is. This was not emotional chaos. This was surgical distance. Harry's team quietly reached out hoping for a brief private conversation, maybe a small reconciliation hidden away from cameras. But the answer reportedly came back cold and final. Declined. No alternate date. No conditions. No maybe later. Just silence wrapped in royal protocol. And inside diplomatic circles, the message landed instantly. Harry no longer represented proximity to the crown. He was simply another private citizen standing outside palace gates he once believed could never close on him. But insiders say the roots of that decision trace back to one night that allegedly horrified people inside the monarchy more than almost anything Harry had done before. November 2025, Remembrance Sunday approaching. One of the most sacred dates in the British calendar, the cenotaph in London. Names of fallen soldiers read into complete silence. Veterans honored, families grieving. And Harry, of all people, understood the weight of that day better than most royals alive. He served in Afghanistan. He wore the uniform. He stood beside soldiers who never came home, which is why what happened next reportedly stunned even people who had defended him for years. The night before Remembrance Sunday, Harry and Meghan attended Kris Jenner's extravagant birthday celebration at Jeff Bezos' Beverly Hills estate. Celebrity elites everywhere, cameras flashing non-stop, Hollywood royalty mixed with billionaires. And Harry walked into that party wearing a remembrance poppy pinned to his tuxedo. That tiny red flower meant to honor the war dead became the detail people could not stop staring at. Because while names of fallen soldiers were preparing to echo through London the next morning, Harry was reportedly dancing beneath chandeliers in Beverly Hills beside celebrities and influencers. The symbolism detonated online. Critics called it tone-deaf. Military commentators called it disgraceful. And then panic allegedly exploded behind the scenes. Reports claimed Harry and Meghan urgently wanted photos removed from social media after backlash intensified. But by then it was too late. The damage had already spread across Britain. And according to palace insiders, that party destroyed the final fragile hopes of reconciliation. Because before that night, there were apparently quiet conversations happening behind closed doors. Discussions about whether Harry might spend private family time with Charles at Balmoral or Sandringham away from cameras. Not public forgiveness, but maybe personal healing. Then came the Beverly Hills images. Harry wearing the poppy at a celebrity party while Britain prepared to mourn its war dead. Palace officials reportedly saw that moment as the final confirmation that Harry no longer understood the emotional heartbeat of the institution he once represented. And months later, Charles answered not with outrage, but with absence in Washington. Meanwhile, Meghan's Hollywood empire was allegedly beginning to collapse in ways nobody expected this quickly. Because the same entertainment world that once treated the Sussexes like untouchable global icons suddenly seemed exhausted. Her relationship with powerhouse agency WME reportedly deteriorated behind the scenes after mounting frustrations. The most explosive rumor involved Thanksgiving 2025 when Meghan allegedly demanded round-the-clock crisis management from staff during the holiday itself. Industry insiders reportedly viewed it as the breaking point. This is Hollywood, a town built on handling impossible celebrities. Yet whispers spread that even executives accustomed to massive egos had simply reached their limit. And then the business cracks became impossible to hide. Spotify is already gone. Netflix projects are underwhelming. The lifestyle rebrand confusion. Luxury partnerships allegedly drifting away quietly behind the scenes. Harry's speaking fees reportedly collapsed from hundreds of thousands to a fraction of that value. Suddenly, the Montecito lifestyle no longer looked untouchable. It looked expensive, desperate even. And then came the moment critics say changed public perception permanently. The children appear online. James never demanded the spotlight. That is exactly why the palace suddenly trusts him with it. And insiders say that realization hit Prince Harry's camp like a slow-moving earthquake. Because for years, Harry's entire argument against the institution rested on one powerful assumption that the monarchy still needed him, needed his charisma, needed his popularity, needed his connection to Diana, needed his global attention, needed the Sussex drama machine even while publicly pretending to reject it. But sometime during 2025 and 2026, something changed behind palace walls. The monarchy realized it could survive perfectly well without Harry. Worse than that for Harry, it realized it might actually function better without him. James became the symbol of that terrifying realization. Quiet, calm, disciplined, no explosive interviews, no memoir attacking relatives, no cameras following him into private moments, no leaking emotional grievances into streaming documentaries, just duty, again and again. And according to royal insiders, that simplicity is exactly what made him valuable. Because after years of chaos surrounding the Sussex brand, the palace reportedly became obsessed with one thing above all else: stability. The institution no longer wanted stars. It wanted reliability. It wanted someone who could walk into public service without turning every appearance into a personal emotional war. James allegedly fit that vision perfectly. The contrast between Harry and James became impossible not to notice. Harry grew up as the rebellious spare prince everyone adored, the fun one, the emotional one, the untouchable one. Palace protection followed him everywhere. Mistakes disappeared, scandals faded. The institution absorbed impact after impact to keep his image alive. But James was reportedly raised completely differently. Sophie and Edward intentionally avoided pushing royal privilege onto him. He could have used the word's title his entire life. They chose not to. Sophie openly stated they wanted their children prepared for normal working lives. Imagine how shocking that difference must look inside royal circles now. Harry was raised believing the institution would always adapt around him. James was raised understanding he might one day need to earn his own place entirely. And now insiders claim the palace sees James as the future model for younger royals under William's eventual reign. Not celebrity royals, functional royals. That phrase reportedly keeps appearing in conversations behind the scenes. Functional, reliable, calm under pressure. People close to the institution allegedly noticed how naturally James handled moments that would crush many adults. Standing vigil beside Queen Elizabeth's coffin at only 14 years old, appearing publicly during emotionally loaded ceremonies without seeking attention, carrying himself with restraint rather than performance. Royal commentators began quietly comparing his composure to Prince Philip, and those comparisons spread faster after James attended key royal events without ever appearing desperate for headlines. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan's public image reportedly kept deteriorating in brutal ways, because the more they tried to regain control of the narrative, the more fragmented the story became. Meghan's defenders insisted she was misunderstood. Harry's defenders insisted he was protecting his family. But audiences seemed exhausted, not angry anymore, just tired. And that may have been the most dangerous shift of all. Outrage still means attention. Indifference means disappearance. British tabloids that once built entire weeks around Sussex drama allegedly began scaling back coverage because readers simply stopped reacting the way they once did. That silence from the public mirrored the silence from the palace. And silence can be lethal when your entire brand depends on constant emotional engagement. The financial pressure reportedly made everything even uglier behind the scenes. Montecito luxury costs money. Security costs money. Staff costs money. Image management costs money. And insiders claim the couple's once unstoppable earning power no longer looked secure enough to support the empire they built around themselves. Every failed deal suddenly mattered more. Every rejected partnership carried heavier consequences. Because unlike working royals funded through institutional structures, Harry and Meghan built a celebrity machine requiring permanent relevance to survive. The moment public fascination weakens, the pressure becomes enormous. And perhaps that is why the rise of James reportedly frightened people around Harry more than any public criticism ever could. Because James represented replacement without conflict. The palace did not need to publicly destroy Harry. It did not need revenge. It simply needed continuity. Someone younger, less controversial, less emotionally volatile. Someone who could appear beside William's future monarchy without dragging years of resentment behind him. According to insiders, this quiet transition became known internally as the doctrine of continuity. The monarchy moving steadily forward without pausing to emotionally negotiate with people choosing to stand outside it. And when you look at the timeline closely, the cruelty of it becomes almost cinematic. Harry spent years insisting the institution trapped him. Then he walked away expecting the world to collapse behind him. Instead, the palace adapted. It survived Oprah. It survived Spare. It survived Netflix accusations. It survived endless headlines predicting catastrophic damage to the monarchy. Public approval recovered. William and Catherine remained central figures. Charles continued operating as king. And now a new younger royal generation is quietly emerging without Harry anywhere near the center of it. That may be the deepest wound in this entire story. Not anger, not exile, replacement. Because replacement means the institution no longer views your absence as a crisis. It views it as manageable. Harry once occupied a unique emotional role inside the monarchy. Diana's son, William's brother, the rebellious prince with public magnetism no one else could replicate. But institutions survive by evolving. And according to royal insiders, James stepped into public life at exactly the moment the monarchy needed someone untouched by endless drama, young enough to represent the future, controlled enough to protect stability, and distant enough from the Sussex wars to avoid reopening those wounds publicly. Now, the most chilling part of all is how quietly this transformation happened. No announcement, no dramatic statement from Buckingham Palace, no press conference declaring Harry replaced. The monarchy simply kept moving, event after event, ceremony after ceremony, public appearance after public appearance. And slowly, almost invisibly, the empty space Harry left behind stopped looking empty at all. James was there. William was there. Catherine was there. Edward and Sophie were there. The machine kept functioning. That is what reportedly devastated Harry's remaining allies the most. The realization that the institution he spent years fighting against had finally learned how to continue without him entirely.